Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of my fursuit building tutorial. So let's jump into the video. As you can see, I'm using quite a bit of different fur colors here, so I'm getting out all of the supplies that I need, as well as cutting out all of the many hundreds of pieces that are going to be needed to be cut out for Kuro's head. I try to keep this as neat as I possibly can. I am only cutting the pieces from the tape pattern as I use them. That way I don't lose any portions of the very tiny pieces that I need, and I will trace and flip them onto the fur and cut them out. For this, I am using scissors. However, I am skilled enough in this process that I don't cut any of the backing of the fur. You can use a box cutter, X-Acto knife, or scissors if you are confident enough. However, I have a special technique that I've started to use, and it is much easier on my hands, as well as I can get precise markings cut out using scissors versus an X-Acto knife. I will also work on a initial pre-shaving at this stage, just to make sure that everything is pretty much the same length when I go to sew parts of the suit together. This is a very tedious step, and there's a lot that you have to be careful about. It's always important to measure everything out twice before making a cut. The rule measure twice, cut once definitely applies here, as I have definitely made mistakes before cutting in the wrong fur direction. So keep cutting and cutting and cutting until you're ready to start sewing. Gather all your pieces together and kind of keep them as in place and in order as you possibly can. Be sure to label them as well. As you can see, I have just been leaving my tape patterns on and piling them up together and keeping them all in one place, as that is the way I will be able to differentiate. Because these parts are so small, I can't label them very well.
Cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever want to give me wings.
Once you're ready to sew, go ahead, get all your parts together. Find a matching thread. In this case, this section is black, so I'm using black thread up against the suit. You will do a lot of sewing here. It's going to take time. I like to start with hand stitches, and a large portion of my heads are just hand stitched, especially places where it's going to be glued down anyways. You can choose to machine sew if you want. I generally don't for the face because I don't have a need to do it, especially with suits with markings as intricate as this. Bodysuits, hand paws, feet paws, all other items, necks, and things like that will get machine sewn, as they will have more pressure put on them, and I don't want those sections to rip. Continue to sew and check that everything is aligned properly until you're ready to move on to either the next section of your head or the next step. Personally, for markings like these where they have to be symmetrical, I like to start from the middle and work my way out. This guarantees that everything is aligned properly, and working left and then right or vice versa ensures that the middle is perfect and I can fix accordingly the left or the right if something is slightly off.
Even though I offer all of the solutions, I wish you loved me like I love you, it's stupid. When I'm alone with you I never feel lucid. I wish I wasn't struck by Cupid. I wish when I first saw you I knew this. When I'm with you I feel so useless, I feel diluted, my heart's been wounded. Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free.
So here's a quick example of everything so far on the head sewn. Again, I will have to go back in and trim some long pile fur down a little bit more just so everything is pretty even. I tend to sew the whole front of my face as well as the top of the hood so that it is one big piece for the fursuit head before I start gluing things down. Here's an example of the head laying on the base and generally where things are going to sit. Now I will slowly work on the very slow and very tedious process of gluing the head down. Sometimes gluing the head down takes multiple tries and lots of finagling, so don't worry if you don't get it right on the first try. Just peel the head back up before the glue dries, and you should be fine. Just be sure to avoid getting any clumps of glue or anything on the actual fur, or else you'll have to trim and possibly recut that entire piece if the fur gets damaged. I also will add the ears at this point and work on sewing those into the hood as well as the base of my ear liner after they are glued down. I leave a little bit of space so I have room to sew them in as well. And as you can see here, I am starting the process of sewing the cheeks into the ears so that the cheeks reach back so that they can be sewn into the hood later on. Got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. I'm never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. It is also important to go back and pick out any seams that have fur caught where you can see exposed thread. Exposed thread is no good and definitely makes the suit look a little bit more amateurish than you want. Now I am using an invisible stitch to sew in the back of the hood to the ears and the sides of the cheeks. I wish I had used a curved needle here as that makes this sewing process so much easier, but at the time I could not find my curved needle, so I just kind of dealt with it and sewed with a little tiny straight needle. I will say, I poked myself quite a few times and it was not fun, so invest in a curved needle if you can. I do have links in the bio of all of my favorite items I like to use, both shown in this video and not shown in this video. Here I am showing you how I apply the overlock stitch to sewing my markings into my head. The overlock stitch is the strongest hand stitch that you will want to use for fursuit building. Once you have everything sewn in, make sure that you tie the knots. Don't want to forget that so nothing comes undone. And then you can brush out, see if you missed any spots, if anything's uneven, and then trim down any flyaways to give markings a little bit more of a crisp shape. I do a bit of scissor work as well as taking my clippers and shaving down with that. It's a very tedious, time-consuming process, and my recommendation is just go slow. Don't take off too much, because you can always continue to go back over your work and take a little bit more off each time. Once you take it off, you can't put it back on, so if you make any nicks or dings, then you gotta replace the whole piece of fur, and we want to avoid that. Here I am attempting to get a bit of a better angle so you can see in real time how I shave and the entire process for that. It's slow work, like I said, so just keep at it until you get to the desired length and aesthetic on your suit. Now that you are done trimming, it is time to add eyelashes or eyebrows if you are including those. I typically will make a tape pattern around the eye so that I can ensure that it fits properly and won't be too large or too small for the eye. And then I will draw and cut that out onto stiff felt, fleece, or plastic, depending on the style of suit that I am making and the desired colors that are available in each type of material. For Kuro, I am using a sparkly black stiff felt and just carefully using the tape pattern to cut out the eyelashes and cutting out the middle. Once that is done, I will work to get the neck part drawn, and I am so sorry. I seem to have poorly recorded this piece, so it's pretty much just a strip of fabric folded over twice with different markings for each side. I will have an actual neck tutorial video very soon. I did not record the neck making process very well for Kuro, so I have another pre-made that I will actually show you how to build a proper fitting neck on a fursuit head with that future piece. But just cut the neck strip out and begin sewing it to the head base.
Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palm.
This is another process that will really benefit from a curved needle if you have one. Also, typically I will sew the neck to liner for pre-made and commissioned piece heads. So this is something, since it is a personal suit, that just bear with it as I am cutting a few corners because it's for me and I don't really care.
Here's my heart straight through. Got issues in my head.
Here I am cutting out the strips of the colored portions that will go into the neck, and I will be trimming those out and sewing them in. Same for the yellow, as the back of Kuro's head is basically the rainbow, so the pieces on the end of the neck are the last two pieces of the rainbow, orange and yellow, that need to get sewn in.
Dead, will you regret everything that you did, that you said? I don't think you understand what you're doing, and my heart's black and blue from the bruising. I feel like when I'm with you I'm losing. I feel like you think that this amusing, sitting there gaslighting and confusing. Was it me? Is it me? Am I deluded? I'm the one who's always sorry, the conclusion. Even though I offer all of the solutions, I wish you loved me like I love you, it's stupid. When I'm alone with you I never feel lucid. I wish I wasn't struck by Cupid. I wish when I first saw you I knew this. When I'm with you I feel so useless, I feel diluted, my heart's been wounded. Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just.
Again, same process. I start in the middle and sew left to right. This ensures that each piece is nice and even and there is no pulling to the left or the right too much, so the entire stripe will fit symmetrically into the hole that was cut for the neck.
You don't ever want to set me free.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed, thinking something out of my nightmares. See me right there. But if I lay down and I play dead
And last but not least, I do a bit of airbrushing work on the suit. Typically for Toonie fursuits, I don't do a ton of airbrush work, just a little bit to fill in problem areas, even up any markings that might be out of place. And as well, I did add small freckles to Kuro's mouth, only because I changed part of Kuro's markings last minute. Typically, I would sew in every marking, but unfortunately, because I decided this after everything got glued in, I was not about to pull the muzzle back up just to sew in very tiny markings. So here you can see that I have airbrushed in the blue spots on the mouth instead. But that is all for this tutorial. As I said, I will be working on a separate tutorial all about neck making because that is an in-depth process all in itself. So be sure to stay tuned for that in probably the next few weeks. I know many of you have requested neck tutorials from me, so absolutely will be doing that in the near future. I also did include a tongue, which was not recorded in this video, so I will be making a little mini tutorial on various methods and how to make tongues for fursuits and dino masks. So you can keep an eye out for that as well. So be sure to like and subscribe, as that is the best way to get notified when I do put out new tutorials up on the channel. While you wait for the next tutorials, please give these ones a watch, and if you haven't seen part 1 of this video series, please go check it out now. The link is in the video description. As always, if something isn't clear or you have any questions, please leave me a comment below. But until next time, guys, I'm Kuro from KemonoDungeon Fursuits. Talk to you next week.